Hi, today I'd like to show you a feature I always use on my machines to make them very secure. It's called Applocker. To run it standalone, you actually need the enterprise SKU of Windows, but if you have Pro you can run this with either Intune policies or group policies. But since I have access to an enterprise edition, I always enable Applocker for all my machines. And what Applocker basically is a whitelist or a set of rules that define what your computer can run. So I'm logged in here as a user. That's not an admin. Who am I? Just user. This is just a test VM, and if I run another window as admin, here I'm logged in as an admin. So to enable Applocker, we need to create the rules. So to do that, you go to security policies and go to Applocker control policies, and we need to create a set of rules. I recommend to start with the default rules. Right click each of these entries and click create default rules, like so. One more, and if we look at the executable rules, it basically creates 3 rules. Everything that's in the programs directory and Windows directory is allowed to run, and anybody who is a local admin is allowed to run anything. So that's why you shouldn't be a local admin, but if you must run as a local admin, you can still enable Applocker, but then you would delete this rule because it wouldn't make sense to run Applocker and allow everything. So this is the basic rules I'm gonna start with to show you, but this is not enough to enable Applocker. Actually, I forgot one thing. You need to go to Applocker and enable it and click configured, and you can either have it as enforced or in audit mode, but I'm gonna enable it and in enforced mode, like so. And there's one more thing. Applocker uses a service called Applocker application identification. I think I remember that correctly. Application identity, sorry, and it's running now. I actually enabled it before, but to enable it you can run this command. I'll show you. This will enable the service, and it's not enabled by default, and then you would start it with start service app ID SVC. There's a typo there, like this. And then to monitor if it's been enabled, you would go to event viewer, and go to application and services, Microsoft, Windows, and Applocker. And we're mostly interested in exe and DLLs, because here it will log if it's blocking anything while any programs that you're trying to start. So let's, for example, say I'm a normal user and I go to download some program like Putty, for example, and let's download Putty. And if you try to run that as the normal user, it's blocked by group policy, and Applocker logs this, so it's fairly easy to see what Applocker is stopping. And usually I just filter this log to show only errors. That way it's easy to identify when it's blocked something, there will pop up a new event here. But this could easily have been a virus, so this would have blocked that virus also. So the idea is that you install as an admin with an elevation, and you install it into program files, and everything is allowed to run there. But of course you might have some other locations that you want to run stuff from, so it's very easy to create rules for that. I'll show you a few basic tricks. There are 3 types of rules you can create: certificate based, file path based, and file hash based. But I recommend to keep it to the certificate and the file path rules, because as soon as you create one file hash rule, then of course the system has to calculate file hashes for everything you run to match it to the hashes you have already allowed. So there's a little bit of a performance penalty with enabling file hash rules. But for example, if you want to enable everything that Microsoft signs, it's easy. You just create new rule, browse to any signed Microsoft executable or any Microsoft signed file, allow rule, publisher, and let's just go to the Windows directory. We should find something signed there, like Explorer, and by default it will only create a rule for Explorer and that specific version, but you can drag this slider here. So maybe I want Explorer but all versions of it, or all product, or this product name and any file. But basically what I want is this publisher, Microsoft in this case. So I click create rule, and now everything that's signed by Microsoft will be allowed to run, no matter where it is, where it is in the file system. Another thing you might want to do is to whitelist everything in a particular directory. So you can right click and select automatically generate rules. And for example, I have a utils directory in this machine with a lot of small utils. So if I'll click that and click automatic rules on that directory, it will scan it. It will ask me if I want to create file hash of path rules. I want to create path rules because of the performance penalty I mentioned, and reduce the number of rules created by grouping similar files. Click next. Now it's scanning the directory. It takes a little bit of time, but depending on the size and the number of files in the directory. So it created 91 publisher rules and 12 path rules. So let's take a look at that. I'm not going to keep all of them, just some of them. So if I sort by the name, so it created a lot of path rules. Of course I could create C utils star and allow everything under the utils folder to run, but I'm gonna delete all of those because I want certificate rules basically. And here is a Microsoft, so I don't need that because there is a C internals folder there, but I already created the rule that's signed, that accepts anything signed by Microsoft, so I don't need that. So I'm gonna delete those. All these rules. But mostly when you're starting using Applocker and creating your files rule set, basically, that this takes some time, because in the end you basically have all the rules for all the software you normally run. For example, I run a program called Total Commander, so I'm just gonna say anything that's signed by Gisler. Where's the star? Here is it. And I'm just gonna put star instead of the file number version, and then I can delete all the other rules. This one. On second thought, I'm just gonna allow total commander, and I don't care about the version of it, but I'm gonna like this, and I'm gonna delete all the other total commander and Microsoft rules. Basically, I'm gonna let's just delete all the other rules because this was just as a demonstration. I'm just gonna leave the total commander rule. So let's try that as a normal user. Let's go to the utils folder. And it runs. If I try something else in the utils folder, it should not work. Like Notepad++, and it's blocked. And if I want to create a rule, I'll show you that again for Notepad++ because I like that program. Click next. Publisher, browse to the Notepad++ folder. Hopefully it's signed. Not all programs are signed, but most of them are. So I'm gonna allow, if the product name is Notepad++, I'll allow it. So let's try that again. And now it runs. So as you can imagine, this is very powerful to block anything malicious or a virus, because most of them will run as they will most often use a vulnerability in some software that might be on the Applocker list, but usually they download a payload and then execute that payload from the temp directory or the app data directory, and Applocker will not allow that to run. So this basically stops most, if not all, malware and viruses in their tracks, so they never get a foothold in your machines. So anyway, I just want to show you this feature if you're running Windows Enterprise. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.